In section 4.4, you're going to use yet another way to graph. You already know how to graph using a t-table. Now you're going to graph using slope-intercept form. So let's start with your key idea. Your key idea is slope-intercept form. A linear equation written in the form y equals mx plus b is in slope-intercept form. Note that it looks very, very similar to direct variation, but we have a plus b on the end, which means your equation is now going to have a number, plus 5, plus 7, minus 2. Now, using common sense, slope-intercept form tells you two things, slope and an intercept. That's why it's called slope-intercept form. So write down the equation, y equals mx plus b. M is your slope. This tells you the slant, how far up and over or down and over your line rises or falls. Your B is your y-intercept. This number right here tells you where the line crosses the y-axis, where your line intercepts with the y-axis. Find the slope in the y-intercept. So here's our first equation. Y equals negative 4x minus 2. This literally is really as easy as it sounds. You're going to put m equals and b equals. M is always the number in front of the x. M is the number in front of the x. The y is the number after the x. So m is the coefficient of the x. M is negative 4. Your slope is negative 4. Your b is negative 2. Done. That's all you do. Part B. Y minus 5 equals 3/2 x. If you note your slope-intercept form has a y equals, you have to solve the equation for y. The y has to be by itself. And you solved this in section 1.4, 3 chapters ago. You have to get the y by itself. So I have to get rid of my minus 5. The opposite of minus 5 is plus 5. So my equation would be y equals 3/2 x plus 5. Your m, your slope in this case, the coefficient of x, which is 3/2. Your y-intercept, which is b, is 5. So my answer is 3/2 for m, and b is 5. Graph using slope-intercept form. Your equation must be solved for y. It absolutely has to be solved for y. Once it's solved for y, you're going to write down what m equals and what b equals. M is 1/2, b is 2. So here's how you graph. Step 1, you always start with your b. This number tells you where on the y-axis this line crosses. So you could put a dot right here at 2 on the y-axis, not the x, not here, always on the y. So it crosses at 2. From that point, you have to go up 1 over 2. So you're going to go up 1 because it's rise over run. So you're going to go up 1 over 2 and put your dot. So up 1 over 2, put your dot. So up 1, right 2. It's positive 1 over positive 2, so it's up 1 over 2. Put your dot. So now I go up 1 over 2 again. And there's my 3 points. And there's my line. Your line goes up 1 over 2, and it crosses the y-axis at 2. Example number 3. Y equals negative 3x plus 3. It is solved for y. So the first thing you do is tell me your m and b. Your m is negative 3, the coefficient of x. Your b is positive 3. Now I'll tell you one more thing though. Your m is negative 3, but we always want to make it a fraction. So if it's not a fraction, you just put it over 1. That means that your slope is going to be going down 3 and to the right 1. So let's graph this. Step 1, start at b. start at B. So the y-axis is 3. We put our dot at 3. That's where you always start, is your B. From that point, our slope is rise over run. So we go down 3, 1, 2, 3, to the right 1. Down 3, right 1. Down 3, right 1. Down 3, right 1. You go down, right 1, down, right 1. Your slope is negative, so your line needs to be going downhill. And that's a really bad line, but there's your answer. You have a line going downhill at a slope of negative 3, and it crosses the y-axis at 3. On number 3, we're going to do the equation y equals 3x minus 4. So the equation is already solved for y. So we first have to identify what our m, which is our slope, and our b, which is our y-intercept. Our m, which is our slope, is 3 over 1. Remember, we want to write it as a fraction, so we put 3 over 1. Our b, where it crosses the y-axis, is negative 4. So now let's graph it. All right, so now if we graph this, we're going to start at the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis, which is negative 4. So there's our first dot. Our slope is positive 3. Always make sure that if your slope is positive, your line's going to go uphill. If it's negative, it's going to go downhill. Positive 3, that means I'm going to go up, and I have a run of 1, which means I'm going to go right. So up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1, up 3 to the right 1, and then up 3 to the right 1 again. And I'm going to try graphing that again. That's really bad. And that's still not very good, but it's hard to do so on the iPad here. So make sure you use a ruler if you need to, but there's my line that crosses through negative 4 on the y-axis and has a slope of 3.